we need to start making more conscious material choices.
I set up an initiative called Make Fashion Circular.
It's a tsunami of change.
Welcome to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation's DIF, the interactive online event series that aims to shift mindsets, inspire action towards a circular economy. My name is Lucas and I work on our Make Fashion Circular team. Today I'm discussing our latest project, the jeans redesign, with our two guests, Harald from Swedish recycler Renewcell and Tom from Honest Jeans from Belgium. This is an interactive session, which means you can send us your thoughts and questions throughout. Use the hashtag ThinkDiff or use the window that you're watching this on. Did you know that over the last 15 years, clothing production has doubled, while utilization has almost decreased by 40%? At the same time, more than 70% of our clothes end up in landfill or incineration, while less than 1% of our clothes are recycled into new once they are no longer wanted. So the fashion industry is, despite all its beauty, extremely wasteful and polluting. With the jeans redesign, we are taking a first step to changing that. The jeans redesign is built on the three principles of a circular economy, which are design out waste and pollution, keep products and materials in use for as long as possible, and regenerate natural systems. So the jeans redesign aims to create products that last longer, can be easily recycled, and are made in a way that is better for the environment, but also for the workers. Together with more than 60 experts across the industry from more than 40 organizations, from manufacturers, brands, retailers, collectors and recyclers, as well as NGOs and academia, we have developed a set of guidelines that defines requirements for how good jeans should be made across 4 different areas. The first one is durability, the second one is material health, the third one is recyclability, and the fourth one is traceability. Let me quickly walk you through the requirements that we have defined for each of these areas. So for durability, it was set that a pair of jeans should be able to withstand at least 30 home laundry washes. Secondly, there is a whole notion around educating the customer. So brands are displaying information about how to care for your garment a lot more prominently on the clothing. For material health, it was decided that organic cotton needs to be used for all the cellulose fibers. Also, clothes need to be made with chemicals that are in compliance with the zero discharge of hazardous chemicals, restricted manufacturing substances list. On top of that, 4 chemicals have been banned. So there's no use of sandblasting, no use of stone finishing, no use of potassium permanganate, and also no conventional electroplating. For recyclability, a minimum of 98% cellulose-based fibers need to be respected so that the jeans are actually recyclable. Also, it was decided that rivets and other metal parts should be reduced to a minimum to make it easy for the recycler to recycle that pair of jeans. And lastly, for traceability, it is very important for the customer to recognize that this is actually a pair of jeans that is made with circular economy principles in mind, but also for the collector at the end of the use, so they can actually channel the jeans into the right recycler. So there will be a jeans redesign logo to make these jeans easily recognizable. On top of that, companies are also incentivized and encouraged to start exploring technologies that could make your jeans smarter, so that the collector and the sorter at the end of the use can easily recognize them. So, the jeans redesign is a starting point, and you might think, why only jeans? Jeans are an iconic product. everybody can relate. Everybody has a pair. Everybody has a story about their favorite pair of jeans. So this is why we started with jeans. And of course, in the future, it will be expanded to more jeans, to more products, but also to a higher ambition level. So now we have already 16 garment manufacturers and brands signed on, and they start producing a share of their jeans with the guidelines in mind. Throughout this session, I invite you to pay special attention to 3 topics. First of all, how design impacts the life of a pair of jeans. Secondly, how innovation is needed so that we can ensure that these guidelines are applied to more and more jeans and also other products. And thirdly, how collaboration is important to lift these projects off the ground. So with no further ado, I would like to introduce the guests that we have on the show today. Welcome, Tom. Welcome, Harald. Tom, you have signed the jeans redesign and you're part of the project. So I would like to start with you. Why don't you introduce Honest Jeans to our audience?
Yes, thank you, Lucas. My name is Tom Duw, and I'm the founder of Honest Jeans, an Antwerp-based denim brand. We launched our first collection last year in March. And that collection that consists of 8 different styles doesn't only make your ass look fabulous, but is also made out of more than 50% recycled jeans. The recycled denim fibers were sourced from our own Time to Harvest collecting campaigns, where we collected more than 6,000 pair of old jeans in and around the city of Antwerp. And the collection is also designed according to circular economy principles. We don't just control the entire production process, but it's also taking place completely within the borders of the European Union. So that means from fiber to jeans, and also in a radically transparent way.
So you've mentioned that 50% of the content comes from recycled fibers. Could you elaborate a bit more on the process of this recycling?
Yes. Yeah, so we started from the fact that in Flanders, 50% of old clothing ends up in the regular household waste, which is a shame because the demand for cotton has risen dramatically the past 15 years. So I wanted to harvest the unused clothes hanging in people's closets, and also wanted to engage people. So that's why we launched our first harvest campaign in September 2017. Where people actually triggered and invited to bring in their old jeans. We had more than 80 different collecting points in and around the city of Antwerp. And we worked together with a social economy in Antwerp. So all the jeans that were collected were manually sorted out because the quality of sorting also defines the quality of the fibers at the end of the process. So the jeans were sorted in jeans that's still wearable. Those they could keep and were sold locally, and all the revenues were for the social enterprise. And we were mainly interested in the jeans that was not wearable anymore and that had at least 95% cotton and didn't have any visual contaminations like oil stain or paint stains. All those jeans, which was also about 50% of what we collected, the non-wearable part, were recycled in Germany. Completely. So not only the legs, but the entire jeans were shredded and rolled back to fibers. And then we brought those fibers back to a European spinning group in Belgium and mixed them together with Tencel. We deliberately chose to use Tencel because we didn't want to mix natural fibers with synthetic ones and also wanted to keep into the cellulose family. So that's why we chose Tencel from Lenzing, also renewable material and local material. And they managed to make a yarn from 50% post-consumer recycled jeans and 50% Tencel. Then that yarn was dyed and woven in our weaving mill in Italy, and also dyed in a very sustainable, non-hazardous way. So we use Ital denim, and they have the smart indigo dyeing technique, which uses electrocells to make the indigo soluble into water. So no hazardous chemicals are being used to make the indigo soluble. And they also use the chitosan technology as a fixing agent to actually make the indigo stick to the yarn. So that reduces or at least eliminates all the micro and nanoplastics that could that are normally there in the the process. Then that fabric is the base for our collection, the jeans collection, which is, like I said, circularly designed. So in order for us to know what's needed to be different in the design of the jeans, we looked again at the recycling step of the old jeans that we collected to see what was waste, because by knowing what is waste, you know the design flaws of the product. So looking at the waste fraction of the recycling process of jeans, we found out that that fraction consists of buttons, rivets, labels, etc. So those are the things we try to tackle in our design. That's why in honest jeans, we have developed removable buttons. So actually screws that can be easily taken off when we get the jeans back at the end of life and can be reused as button. The rivets, we embroider the rivets. That way you have the same look and feel, but you don't have any metal-like parts that cannot be recycled anymore. We don't use any labels on the inside. All the information is silk screen printed on the pocketing, also PVC-free silk screen printed. The pocketing fabric also, by the way, is made from partly recycled white t-shirts that also we recycled and mixed together with tencel and spun into yarn in Belgium and woven into new fabric, pocketing fabric in the Netherlands. We also took in mind design for longevity. Looking at my own experience with jeans, they always started tearing at the crotch area because I like to cycle a lot. I didn't find any real solutions onto the market. So for our own jeans, we also have a crotch reinforcement, so an extra piece of fabric stitched into the crotch, and therefore making it a bit stronger and preventing it from tearing. We also looked at the use phase of the jeans because 25% of the total environmental footprint is actually generated in the use phase. So every time when we put our jeans in a washing machine. So I believe that our responsibility doesn't just stop at the moment we have designed and made the jeans, but also how we can help the customer increase the environmental impact at the use phase. So we also developed our morning after spray, as we branded it, and that's a spray which is included into the jeans, made from probiotics. So it's a completely natural spray. It's positive bacteria that applied on the jeans actually eat the bad bacteria that cause the smell, and therefore basically making it very easy for consumers not to wash their jeans, and therefore saving a lot of water and energy. We also have a free repair service and take back. So we have an incentive of €15 that the customer gets when returning their honest jeans. And then we can decide what's the best next use for that jeans is. So that's how we would like to tackle the entire cycle from fiber to design the jeans to the use phase and the end of life.
Thanks, Tom. That was really comprehensive. Just a few clarifications for our audience. Tencel is a cellulose-based fiber that is often derived from wood and can be produced in a completely closed process, so there are no chemicals that escape from that process. Secondly, Tom has mentioned that he can recycle, or his partner can recycle all of the jeans. What happens today with most recyclers is that only the leg panels are recycled, which means that a vast part of the jeans are actually ending up in landfill still. Before we move on to Harald, just maybe you can spend maybe 30 seconds on explaining the actual recycling process, because this is where we have two different technologies on the session today. So you or your partner is using a mechanical recycling process.
Yes, exactly. So the jeans that we recycle are being mechanically recycled. So that's basically chopping up the jeans. So it's a big recycling facility that chops up the jeans into smaller parts, and then also the contaminations like buttons, etc., are taken out with different steps. Gravity is being used, magnets are being used to take out all the parts that are not textile or cotton. But by chopping it up mechanically, you also shorten the fibers, of course. It's a bit the same like paper recycling. And You don't want to make any concessions on the quality of your end material if you want to reuse the fibers again in a high quality textile application. So that's why you need to add new fibers to compensate the possible loss of quality. So that's why we have to add new fibers. In this case, we chose tencel. And therefore, at the moment, we are limited to 50% recycled fibers, which is very high at this moment for mechanically recycled jeans. But of course, it's our ambition to push that figure in the coming years. But that's still the limitation of mechanically recycling.
Thank you, Tom. So now handing over to Harald, who's introducing RenewCell and their chemical recycling technology.
Thank you, and thank you, Tom, for that introduction to Honestly. You've done such an amazing job. It's so ambitious and so impressive also, particularly in our space, getting to 50+% of recycled materials is in mechanical recycling. That's a real feat. My name's Harold, and I take care of communications and brand development at RenewCell. We're a chemical recycler of cellulosic textiles based in Sweden. We have our head office in Stockholm. And then we have a recycling plant in Kristinehamn. It's about a 2-hour train ride from Stockholm, where we have 12 co-workers working on recycling textile waste. And the background to what we're doing is that the company founded in 2012 with an idea of closing the loop on cellulosic textiles and try to develop a circular alternative to virgin materials, really with the picture in mind of places like the Aral Sea. It's basically disappeared from being the world's 4th largest lake to shrinking to basically nothing in about 30 years due to cotton irrigation. And also with a view to the future that the people in the global middle class consuming at the level that we've been used to in Sweden for quite a while is going to increase. And at the population of 8.5 billion people by 2030, the impacts from fashion are only going to increase. And as you introduced earlier, Lucas, the fact is that less than 1% of clothes are today recycled back into clothes. It's about 90 million tons of textiles are just wasted. And in that textile waste, there's precious cellulose that we've spent a lot of resources cultivating and growing. It should be able to feed the growing demand for textiles on the other end, so fresh cellulose. So what we've done is taken a big step towards making fashion circular through chemical recycling. So at our plant in Kristinehamn, we use either post-consumer or pre-consumer waste that is high in cellulose content. We're focusing on cotton right now because there's most of it out there. The typical product that we take in is worn out blue denim jeans or denim offcuts from production. The textiles begin much like the mechanical recycling process. We shred it, we debutton and de-zip the clothes. We're using gravity and magnets and things like that to remove metal parts like buttons and zippers. We then put the material, and this is where like the patented and innovation comes along, our patented solution. We put the material into a wet chemical process where we, in a number of different steps, treat the material to adjust to make a good end product. And that's, going into technical stuff, it's about adjusting the viscosity of the material and making sure that it's reactive in later stage processing. Because we're producing a material that is designed for scale, we need to be able to compete with existing alternatives. So that means we need to make a very bright white product. So we also de-dye the material, try to take the dye out as much as possible, and we put it through a chlorine-free gas bleaching process to tackle that the last coloring that's in there. We also need to have a tolerance for non-cellulose content. So we can accept materials, because all materials, no matter what it says on the beds or elaston or something like that in them, we pass the material through a process where we separate those parts out, because we only want to have cellulose in the final product.
Yeah.
So once all of that is done, sorry.
I'm just quickly jumping in because we have mentioned the word cellulose quite a lot in the last minutes, and I want to explain to the audience the cellulose is the component that makes up natural fibers. So it is contained in cotton, for example, but also in wood. And you can use that cellulose to make a fiber out of it. And just to unpack also what both Tom and Harold have explained and the difference between the two technologies. When you mechanically recycle cotton, you shred it, so you get cotton out of that process, despite it's cotton of lower quality. When you chemically recycle cotton, you take out the cellulose and you get a different fiber, which can be a viscose or a lyocell fiber.
Correct. Thank you for clarifying. Cellulose, it's the most abundant organic molecule found in nature. So all the green plants, wood has a lot of content, and cotton is like the most pure cellulose in nature.
So Harold, yeah. I know that you have recently started producing on a larger scale. You have had a pilot project with a partner in North America. Can you maybe tell us a bit more about that pilot project and also about the scale of your operation?
Yes, we have a small industrial scale. Everything is relative in this business, but we have our plant in Kristinehamn can handle 7,000 tons of textiles per year, and that equates to about 30 million t-shirts by weight. It's a lot of garments to process, and we need to, of course, find the raw materials to feed this process. So we work with collectors for post-consumer materials, and one such collector is Bank & Vogue, a North American collector and sorter, or rather a sorter of post-consumer textiles. And they're experts in valorizing post-consumer textiles and in finding resale opportunities, second-hand opportunities, hitting the exact right markets where a particular type of garment is in high demand currently, and in trend and things like that. But sorter will always have a pretty significant part of its collected materials that can't be reused or resold as a garment. Yeah, been the solution for that fraction is downcycling into insulation or wipes to use in industry and things like that. But together with Bank & Vogue, we've now been able to recover 90,000 pairs of blue jeans, identify which ones have high cotton content, and get them to our plant in Kristinehamn, and we've been able to turn those blue jeans back into a raw material for making high quality viscose fibers.
You've mentioned 90,000 jeans. How many jeans did Bank & Vogue have to go through to find these 90,000 that fit with your technology?
Oh, I don't have that number in my head, but it was a lot. It's a big undertaking, and it's something that this industry industry needs. And to be really certain, you have to go down and to do burn tests and things like that. It's often not even enough to do the feeling of the material. So Bankenborg were brilliant in putting together a process that we could work, had the precision enough and the cost effectiveness enough for us to be able to use it in our process. But I'm sure the ratio was at least 10 to 1, probably even worse when it comes. I mean, it's hard to. We blend in a lot of non-cotton content in jeans already.
And let me explain to the audience quickly. This is a massive part of the jeans redesign. As we just learned, jeans today are not designed with recyclability in mind, which makes it really difficult down the line to sort out the ones that can be recycled with existing technologies today. So the jeans redesign specifically looked at what are the available technologies and how much cellulosic content do we have to have in our jeans so that it is easier down the line to quickly sort them out and recycle them subsequently. Before we look into the future, let us quickly check out the jeans redesign video clip that we have produced for this project. So going back to Tom, we got a question from the audience, Tom. All these improvements, the better design, the better fibers, does that mean that your jeans cost more to buy? And do you perceive that to be a challenge?
Yes, absolutely. That's probably the biggest challenge that we have as a brand, is the fact that we take into account the true cost of producing that circular design jeans. But by doing it the way we do, by taking control of the entire process, doing the sorting out ourselves, etc. By doing local production, we work with a small confection in Milan. The fact that we use only healthy dyeing technique and also non-hazardous finishing techniques, etc., makes it a lot cheaper. That's because we take all the societal costs within our model and our price, and that gives us a competitive disadvantage when we have to compete against other companies that have been really great in doing everything very efficiently and externalizing as many costs as possible. By telling the story, I always got that question from the audience. Okay, well, how much does your jeans cost, and how come it's that expensive? And I was a bit, I really felt strange that I always had to defend myself why our jeans is so expensive. Why the question was never asked why it's even possible that other brands are able to produce jeans for 20 or 30 euros. By tackling that question, I thought the only way of doing that is by also being transparent about not just how the jeans is being made, but also transparent about the true cost. So also on our website, everybody that wants to see that can see the total cost build-up of our jeans, including the price of the fabric, the price of the trims, the price of the confection, price of transport, also the CO2 offsetting that we do, and even the gross margin. So by opening up that price, I also want to spark the discussion and also want to make people more aware of the fact that this is the true cost of a jeans. And for us now, it's a bit too early, but I really want to, in the future, would like to translate that price into a total cost of wear, because our jeans might seem to be more expensive and are more expensive than your average jeans. But I'm pretty sure that with all the elaborate testing that we've done, also with regards to quality, that the jeans is going to last way longer than your average jeans. Even if you include the free repair service that we have. So if you would then see what the actual cost per year would be for another jeans and compare that to a high street brand jeans that only lasts for a couple of months, then at the end of the day, you're probably better off with a more expensive jeans that's carefully been designed, that's made in good conditions, that doesn't contain any hazardous chemicals. But yeah, that's still very difficult to do so. So although we have that competitive disadvantage, and we would like to communicate it by the transparent way, we also have to compensate a bit with storytelling, of course. That's also why we like to engage our customers by making them part of the harvest campaign and making them part of the production process by asking them to drop off their old jeans. So it's still a big challenge, but we'll see how that goes in the future.
Yeah, connecting to that, we've got a question from our audience, from Rachel, and she asked, should people own less jeans? And if they are really expensive, some of us might not be able to actually afford them.
Yes, yeah, that's true. But all with the fast fashion these days, somehow we've got the idea that clothes are really have become consumables. We buy clothes just to wear them for a couple of occasions, and then we dispose them. And by giving that, by doing that as consumers, also brands start developing and designing and making cheaper quality items, also using lesser material quality, etc., quality materials that cannot be recycled afterwards. So that's just a race to the bottom. So I think we should go back to the idea of, okay, buy less but buy good quality items that you can endlessly combine for different occasions. It's still important that as a customer you can you should still be free to wear whatever you want, and on one hand we need to find a new balance between buying a couple of pieces that are made of good quality and that you can combine for different occasions, but that last long and are well designed. I guess.
So there's another question connecting to that from Michael, and he asks, what needs to change in the wider system to inspire more action, like those that businesses such as yourselves are taking? What is the bigger system picture? Where's collaboration needed? Where's maybe even policy needed?
I think a big lever for change could be that brands and producers become responsible for whatever they make. Because now there's no incentive for them whatsoever to rethink how they produce clothes, what kind of materials they use, because they don't see them anymore after they sold them. So I think an extended producer responsibility like that already exists, for example, with electronics, where producers become responsible for whatever they put on the market. They also have to take out of the market what they put onto it, and they become responsible for recycling those. Then the lever for change becomes better, because then producers have heavy benefits in making better design choices that make those products better recyclable, and also if they do it in a smart way, they can then reuse parts of that product or the resources in new products and become more cost effective on the long term. But as long as there's no responsibility for brands, then if there's no responsibility, you don't get any commitments, you don't get any positive change. So I think that could be an important way to start, combined with the shifting minds of consumers when they buy new clothes. Yes.
And thanks, Tom. Going back to Harold, when you look into the future, what are the RenewCell just got started on the first project. What are your future plans?
Well, our singular focus is scale. We want to build capacity as quickly as possible in order to have as much impact on this industry as we can. We're really feeling that the traction is there, the brands are interested, the consumers are interested, and there's no time to waste when it comes to get circular. So we're already in the planning stages of our next facility, which will be approximately at least 4 times as big as the one we have in Kristinehamn today. And we want to go to recycling 1 billion garments a year before the end of the next decade. And we think that's fully realizable, actually. So it's an ambitious undertaking, but we think that the interest in there and the need for this type of product is there too.
And how do the guidelines from the jeans redesign help a recycling company like yourselves to achieve that goal?
It helps us immensely. First of all, it really puts it out there that recycling is an issue that brands and manufacturers need to care about, and that they're designing in a problem from the start, and that they have put too little attention onto recycling. And down the line, when we're at that stage of recycling 1 billion garments per year, we're going to run out of nice pure cotton clothes or viscose clothes for us to recycle. And we need, if we don't change as an industry, we need to start thinking about the blends that we make and try to design for circularity from the start, because it's in the design phase where the impact is decided, the impact for each particular garment, whether it is extending the life or making it recyclable at the end of life.
And are you increasingly working more closely with brands to define what is recyclable?
Oh yes, I mean we often our relationship with the brand starts with them having a piece or waste stream, a number of garments that they'd like to recycle, and they send it to us for tests, and we can pretty quickly tell them, no, this is not recyclable, or this is actually recyclable. So that opens up that conversation directly with the brands and starts changing mindsets, because they would like to call, of course, it's a big marketing benefit as the conversation is going right now, to be able to say that a certain piece of garment is recyclable as well. In that way, we're defining together with the brands, and the jeans redesign guidelines are going to be an enormous help there, because it's an objective outside set of rules and guidelines that are pretty simple to adhere to, that we can point to and say, this, and if you just follow that, we're happy to recycle it. And we've actually committed to recycling all jeans redesign jeans down the line.
And how are you innovating on the commerce side of the business?
We're actually we're running a pretty standard operation when it comes to marketing this. We're selling pulp at world market price. But the innovation is probably working more together with the brands to tell the story about circular materials, much like Tom explained about how Honest works with getting the narrative out there and explaining and making transparent why these types of products are better and why it's worthwhile to recycle materials. So right now we're developing or we're going first part of the toolkit that brands working with us can have to tell that story simply and effectively to the consumers that care about making sustainable choices. And then we're also, of course, engaged in innovation projects on increasing our ability to take blended textiles, because that improves our economics, of course, and also exploring additional applications outside of fashion for our product. So there's a lot of R&D ongoing as we're scaling.
But it's really good news that you are actually competing on price with virgin materials. That's pretty awesome. We are slowly running out of time, so one last question for Tom, and please with a 30-second answer if you could. Coming back to the price issue that you have you considered leasing to make the jeans more accessible?
Well, that could be one possibility. We haven't really looked into that yet. Obviously, Mud Jeans is the first brand that actually started with leasing their jeans. And when we started, we also thought, okay, is this something we need to do? But I think it's always important to look at the bigger picture. And why would you do leasing? Is you want to keep ownership of the materials, so you want to get the jeans back at the end of life. And I thought, okay, well, setting up a leasing system is also very elaborate. You need to pre-finance, and as a very small startup, we couldn't pre-finance the production of the jeans, of course. And by working with a warranty system, that give the incentive to consumers to return their old jeans at the end of life, which is €15, which is still high enough to give that incentive to consumers. We believe we also get the jeans back to close the loop. So the end goal by getting the material back is the same by working that way.
Okay, thanks very much, Tom. You now have the opportunity to give our viewers your top 3 points that you would like them to remember.
All right. As a consumer buying new jeans, you mean, or what kind of?
What are the top 3 points that you would like to our audience from today to remember?
Well, very important is that I think it's mentioned a couple of times today. It all starts with good design. Bad design leads to waste that cannot be reused again. So the design is where that matters. But not just look at one aspect, but you need to take into care every design decision, what the implications are at every next step of the life cycle. For example, you still see other brands using recycled cotton and blending it with recycled polyesters, for example. That doesn't take into account the effects at the use phase or the recycling phase. So design is key. Design decides every step of the further design chain. Another takeout, I think, is when you go and buy jeans, look at the material composition. Does it consist of blends, or is it pure? Is it 100% cotton when it comes to jeans? Then that's probably a good start. What else? Something that we didn't really touch upon, but I think is also important for customers and that could be the lever for change, is that it also comes to the health of products, because a lot of toxics, pesticides, heavy metals are being used in the process, especially jeans. And those toxics are still in the product when you wear it as a consumer. So as soon as people start realizing that it also affects you as a consumer, as a wearer of those products, that could be maybe a lever for change. That's also what made the change happen with regards to food. As soon as people started realizing that it also has to do with health. So hopefully, as soon as people start realizing that clothing is also a matter of healthy choices, that could also hopefully push brands in using cleaner processes and cleaner products.
This is great news because all these topics will be conveyed by the Jeans Redesign logo. So customers will actually have a choice to see this is a good pair of jeans and then can make the decision to buy.
Exactly. I'm also very happy with the Jeans Redesign program that actually tackles every design step and the entire process. So it's a very good way for consumers to actually see that there are alternatives that look at every step, not just how it's been designed, but also the non-use of hazardous components and recyclability. So so I'm very happy with the initiative.
Thank you, Tom. Likewise, Harold, what are your top 3 points that you would like the audience to take away?
I think it's Tom took pretty much said it all, but design for circularity is definitely a priority. So if you're a designer or some kind of decision maker in the fashion industry, or even as a consumer, think about what the stuff you buy will end up as when it can't be used anymore. You should also ask for recycled materials, either in your professional life or as a consumer, or not. You're a user and you need to take care of what you have, and please don't throw any of your textiles into general waste anymore. Stop doing that. Give us a chance to recycle it.
Harold, Tom, thank you so much for being on the diff today. My favorite point of today is actually a simple one. It is totally doable. We can do it, and the prices are becoming more competitive, and we are looking to scale up these operations. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it from the Jeans Redesign. Stay tuned for more action from the diff today. We have 7 sessions in total for you. Goodbye.
We need to start making more conscious material choices.
Set up an initiative called Make Fashion Circular.
It's a tsunami of change.